Hello. So you might hear my 2-year-old in the background. I tried to do this while he was taking a nap, but it didn't work out so much. So might have some background noise. I apologize. So for my response for the 1997 case of University and Community College System of Nevada versus Farmer, deontology is referred to as duty-based ethics. It is an approach to ethics that addresses whether the motives behind certain actions are right or wrong instead of focusing on whether the results of the action are right or wrong. It is based on each individual's duty or obligation towards each other, all living things, and the environment based on moral beliefs and values. It teaches about always acting in good faith and adheres to the golden rule to treat others the way you want to be treated. The Ten Commandments are examples of deontology. They are moral duties that we have been taught since we were children, and we are molded by them in the way that we should treat others, to be fair and not using them to serve selfish intentions. Teleology, on the other hand, or consequentialism, is referred to as results oriented ethics. It focuses on the purpose of each action and whether there is an intention or meaning for the action. It deals with the consequences or the outcomes of an action. In essence, while deontology is based on a man's absolute duty towards mankind and how it is given priority over results, teleology is based on the results of an action and on whether the action produces greater happiness and less pain. For the question to critique the 1997 case of University and Community College System of Nevada versus Farmer, originally Farmer prevailed on this matter, but apparently her victory was overturned on appeal. My critique is done using the duty-based ethics or deontology choice. The reason for this is as follows. It is unfair to not pay the woman the same pay as the man for the same job, period. Further, the committee chose to use teleology to base their decisions on, not deontology. The fairness and ethically based method in this situation, it was without a doubt based on doing whatever actions produced a result agreeable to the persons rather than what was fair or just. On top of that, and thrown into the mix, what we basically have here is confusing and conflicting requirements between affirmative action requirements and equal opportunity laws. In essence, unfair concessions were made to Makoba, not equally to Farmer. By the search committee offering Makoba a higher salary and a higher stipend upon his educational completion, in order to keep him happy and not risking losing him to the competition, the committee made offers to him and not equally to Farmer, which may have met the affirmative action or the unwritten racial quota demands, but it violated the Equality Opportunity Act. Very complicated. In my opinion, it still contributed to a reverse discrimination situation, which is unfair and unethical. The original case victory in Farmer's favor against the University and Community College System of Nevada, I feel, was just and fair based on equal work, equal pay. It should not have been overturned. Bottom line, it is only fair to pay Farmer the same as Makoba for the same exact work. For question number 2, sorry, I have a hitch. I've been trying not to itch it. About the corporation that changed the outsourcing. My response, my denton, why can't I talk? Deontological perspective. From this perspective, the company didn't treat employees fairly. They were outsourced. The employees were forced to either train the future foreign outsourced employee or lose their severance. Nobody wants to be faced with that dilemma. In the words Myra Boyenstein, I can assure you this is one of the most stressful, demeaning, dehumanizing experiences of my life. No one should have to deal with the issue of being laid off and being forced at the same time to train their replacement. Teleological perspective, I hope I'm saying those right. From this perspective, the outsourcing is a bottom line to move in the positive direction by outsourcing throughout the company can save lots of money to be used for other tactical decisions. And my third response for the diversity legislation in Canada, let's see, there it is. Canadian employment law relies on one basic employment law to abide by. The U.S. has a multitude. Equity, as defined in federal Canadian law by the Employment Equity, yeah. I can't talk. I apologize. I do not enjoy making videos. Let's see. Canadian law by the Employment Equity Act requires federal jurisdiction employees to engage in proactive employment practices to increase the representation of 4 designed groups: women, people with disabilities, Aboriginal peoples, and visible minorities. The Act states that employment equity means more than treating persons the same way, but also requires special measurements and the accommodations of differences. The Canadian law is pretty to the point. This act seems like it could really simplify things for Canadian employers. On the other hand, it seems like the U.S. employers have the difficulty of being versed in a complex network of various acts and laws which may or not be the interfaced. Legislation that promotes diversity in the workplace is as follows. And guys, there are so many lists. There is Civil Rights Act, Pregnancy Discrimination Act, Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA Amendments Act, Age Discrimination in Employment Act, Equal Pay Act, Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, Rehabilitation Act, Genetic Information, Non-Discrimination. That's a lot of laws. The purpose of this act is to achieve equality in the workplace so that no person shall be denied employment opportunities or benefits for reasons unrelated to ability, and in the fulfillment of the goal to correct the conditions of disadvantage in employment experienced by women, Aboriginal peoples, people with disabilities, and members of visible minorities by giving effect to the principles that employment equity means more than treating people or persons in the same way, but also requires special measures and accommodations of differences. Canadian employment law is largely a provincial matter, not a federal government matter. In the U.S., jurisdiction may vary. Canada, approximately 90% of the workforce is regulated by provincial governments. Each province regulates labor and employment matters in a similar, though not identical manner. The remaining 10% of the workforce is federally regulated. Unlike employers in the United States, there is no National Labor Relations Board governing the entire country's unionized workforce. Likewise, hours of work and overtime are regulated for 90% of the workforce by the provincial government in the province where the employee is actually employed. The significance of this difference between Canada and the United States is that if your business has multiple locations in Canada, then each set of HR policies, employment agreements, etc., must be reviewed in regard to the jurisdiction's particular laws. There are also nuances as to how similar governmental agencies in each different province approach the same issues. Canadian employment law breaks down to 4 groups of equality. The U.S. there has a lot more groups to satisfy for quotas. Again, the 4 designated groups in Canada are women, people with disabilities, Aboriginal peoples, and visible minorities. And the U.S. has a ton more. Okay, so last one where we had to do a media source. On the exercises in the media diversity activity, I selected the first option, electronic media, primetime TV. Unfortunately, I do not have primetime TV, but I have Netflix, and I went on the category Trending Now and browsed through the selections. There were shows in all range from Grey's Anatomy, which has been running for several years, Orange is the New Black, 13 Reasons Why, Jane the Virgin, Heartland, etc. I picked 13 Reasons Why to watch since they are shows I have been watching. 13 Reasons Why audience I would have leaned towards young and female viewers, but upon looking it up, it had almost the opposite age distribution. About 35% of the viewers for 13 Reasons Why were 34 or younger, while 65% of the audience was age 35 or older. That was pretty shocking to me because I did not expect that. 13 Reasons Why is a controversial TV show which makes a compelling case for engaging with the challenges teens face. The show is about a young girl who commits suicide, and it seems more and more teenagers are committing suicide. The show portrays parents who care immensely about their child, and yet they are in the dark about their frustrations, insecurities, fears, and everyday life battles. I have a child with special needs. He is only in kindergarten, but I hope and pray he has a smooth school years. Kids can be so mean, and I just hope he knows how amazing he is, regardless of what others might say or think. The biggest takeaway is that things may not always be as they appear when it comes to our children's private lives. We may never know what it takes for each child to get themselves through the door of the school in the morning. Sometimes just showing up can be a huge accomplishment, as it was in Hannah's case, the main character of the show that committed suicide. And this series serves as a rude awakening that jolts us to pay more consistent, intentional attention. The show has 3 seasons, and I recommend it. So that is my video. I apologize if it was painful to get through. Like I said, I am not very comfortable with doing videos. I don't do them very often. I do find that I kind of mix up my words, jumble them up. So I hope that it wasn't too bad for you to get through. Thank you.